The smell of lemon bleach and burnt garlic clung to my clothes. My hands were pruned from the sink, wrists sore from scrubbing all night, 10 hours behind a wall no one on the other side cared to look past. I was rinsing a pile of cast iron pans when their voices drifted through the swinging door. God. His accent's like jungle English, Lana said, laughing loud enough to echo off the tile. Greg joined in, right? Every time he talks, I feel like I'm watching some wildlife documentary. A pause, a low chuckle. My stomach twisted. That laugh weak. Apologetic, he knew better, but fear made him complicit. I stood still, water running over my hand, boiling hot. But it wasn't the heat that burned. Probably eats with his hands too, Greg added. Snorting, Lana chimed in. Bet his mom still lives in a mud hut somewhere. Something in me cracked. I pushed open the break room door. The laughter died instantly. Greg looked up. Halfway through a bag of chips, Lana froze with her phone in hand. Lowe's avoided my eyes. I heard everything. Lana blinked, then rolled her eyes. Relax, it's just a joke. I took a step in. You ever joke about your own people like that? Her smirk faded. Don't be so sensitive. Greg stood up. Don't make this a race thing. Man, nobody meant anything, no? My voice shook, but not from weakness. Then why am I always the help? Why can't you say my name? Silence. I bust my ass back there, just like everyone else, maybe harder, and all you see is an accent. Greg shrugged. Look, if you don't like it here, I didn't say I needed your approval, he scoffed, tossed the empty chip bag into the bin, and walked out. Lana followed, muttering, God, people can't take a joke anymore. The door swung shut behind them. I stood there. Chest-heaving Liss finally spoke, his voice low. They don't see you. Man, I turned toward him, eyes locked. They will? He looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't mean to laugh, but you did. I was scared. I nodded slowly. So was I the first 100 times. He bit his lip. What are you gonna do? I grabbed my backpack, slinging it over my shoulder. Keep showing up, keep being louder than their silence. I stepped back into the kitchen, past the sink, and walked out through the front where the chandeliers sparkled and the customers sipped $100 wine for once. I didn't duck my head, let them see me. I walked in 10 minutes. Early, wearing my best navy blazer and a crisp white shirt, not a single wrinkle. My shoes shined so bright. I caught Lana staring. She looked confused. Good. Greg was already barking orders before the clock hit noon. Jaden, grabbed the back trash and don't take all day. I didn't flinch on it. His eyebrows lifted like he expected me to bite back. I did not yet. I walked past him without a word, hearing his voice. Follow me like a shadow? What's with the fancy get-up? Got a stock boy of the month ceremony. Lana snorted behind the counter. Maybe he thinks he's management now. I paused just long enough to meet her eyes. Maybe I'm just done letting people decide who I am. Her smile faded. Greg leaned against the counter near the register. All right, Obama, chill out. I clenched my jaw and turned away before the heat in my chest exploded. Not today, not like this. I stocked shelves in silence, each shoebox like a weight I was finally about to drop for good. Louise worked beside me, eyes flicking from the laces to my blazer hanging on the hook. He didn't say much, just watched. Like he knew something was different. New job interview? He asked quietly. I shook my head. Not exactly. He didn't push. Greg kept circling the store like a bored hawk, throwing jabs every time he passed. Make sure you polish those shoes to match your attitude. Try not to get any dust on your little blazer. I gave him nothing. Silence hurts worse than shouting when they want you to break after the shift. I found Weiss out back, leaning against the dumpster, lighting a cigarette. With shaky fingers, I waited until he exhaled. You. Good, I asked. He nodded. You didn't say a word all day? I was thinking. He eyed me sideways. Dangerous habit around here. I smiled faintly. I bought something. He squinted. A car. I shook my head. The store. His laugh came out rough. Man, stop playing. I'm not. He stared at me for a long second, the smoke from his cigarette curling between us. You serious? I nodded. I signed the papers last week. It's official tomorrow morning. He blinked. Fast, but how? Family left me a little money I invested. It worked, and I've been watching this place bleed for months. Greg runs it like a playground for his ego. I knew they'd sell cheap. Luis dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his heel. You're really the boss. Will be. Greg doesn't know yet. He let out a low whistle. Damn. Silence settled for a beat. You gonna fire them? He asked. I thought about it. No, not yet. He frowned. Why not? Because I want them to feel what it's like when someone they look down on stands taller, firing them. That's easy, making them answer to me. That's justice. He nodded slowly, something like respect in his eyes. You always planned this? He asked. No, but they gave me a reason. I looked up at the stars, just peeking through the alley's opening for the first time in months. My chest felt light. Luce's voice came soft. They're not ready. I smiled. They don't have to be. I walked away, then blazer over my shoulder, heart pounding like a drum. Before a war tomorrow, they'd learn what it feels like when the help stops helping and starts leading. Asterisk. I pushed open the front doors like I belonged there for once. I didn't need to sneak in through the side, head down, pretending not to hear the snickers. The air changed the moment I stepped inside. Greg was halfway. Through his coffee eyes locked on me like he'd seen a ghost. Lana's mouth hung open, spatula frozen mid-flip over the griddle. I walked with purpose. My shoes didn't squeak like they used to. They clicked. Morning, I said calmly, eyes sweeping across the kitchen staff. Before we begin today's shift, I'd like to make a quick announcement. Greg laughed, that dry, mocking kind. What's this, another TED Talk from the dish pit? I pulled the sealed envelope from my jacket and set it gently on the stainless steel prep counter between us. Greg blinked at it, then at me. What is that? Proof, I said. I bought the place as of this morning. I'm the new owner. The silence hit harder than I expected. Greg coughed, choking a little on his drink. Wait, what? Purchased from your former boss, I added, effective. Today you'll find all the legalese inside. Lana dropped her spatula. You clean dishes. I met her stare. And now I clean house. Her lip curled. This is some kind of joke, right? You can't just... I stepped aside and the HR rep behind me took a small step forward. She held up her badge. Mr. Jaden Cole is now the legal proprietor. He has full control over management decisions, including staffing. Greg's face turned red. You can't fire me. My voice was quiet. But steady, watch me. You've got no experience, no business sense. What, you think you're better than us now? His voice cracked, desperate. I leaned closer just enough. I've always been better than what you reduced me to, Lana stammered. This is discrimination. I turned to her slowly, letting my words sink before I said them. That's rich coming from you. Someone in the back coughed to hide a laugh. A couple others looked down, pretending they weren't. Grinning, you used to laugh every time I walked in, soaked from the rain. I said, my voice low, steady. You said I smelled like mop water, like dirt. Greg opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. I'm not here for revenge, I'm here for change. You two just don't fit into it. Lana's face twisted. You're just bitter. Maybe, I said, but now my bitterness signs your severance. The HR rep pulled out 2 forms, sliding them across the counter. Greg stared at them like they were weapons. You're making a mistake. No, I said. Staying silent was the mistake. Letting you walk all over me was the mistake. But this is me correcting it. The silence in the room grew heavy. I could feel every pair of eyes locked on us. They weren't just watching, they were weighing me. I looked at them all. You want to stay, work hard, respect each other. No more yelling, no more threats, no more slurs behind closed doors. That's the new rule. Someone near the dish pit muttered, finally. Greg shoved the papers back. I won't sign this. You already did. I said, when you mocked me in front of customers, when you accidentally dumped hot water on my shoes, when you called me. Boy, every insult was another signature. He stood there shaking. I'll sue, he barked. Feel free. The HR rep replied, we have cameras, audio statements, try it. He looked at her, then at me, then back at the papers. His hands trembled. As he signed, Lana signed without a word. Her eyes glistened, but I didn't flinch as they left, heads low. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for years. I turned to the crew. Anyone else have something to say? No one spoke. I nodded. Then let's get back to work. A clean kitchen starts now. I stood at the head of the staff room table, a place I'd never imagined myself standing, not because I wasn't capable, but because I was never allowed to believe I could belong there. The room was full. Some faces looked curious, a few looked hopeful, and then there was Greg. Arms crossed, jaw clenched, trying hard not to explode. I took a breath, my chest tight with nerves, but my voice? Calm, steady. No one here, I said, meeting every pair of eyes I could, will be judged by the color of their skin, the way they speak, or the job they do. That's over. Luis, standing near the back, nodded slowly. We've needed this for years." I could hear murmurs of agreement ripple through the room. That small sound, it did something to me, lit something quiet and strong. In my chest, Greg scoffed loudly. "You really think you can run this place?" I didn't flinch. "I already am." He let out a laugh that didn't quite land. "You're just some dishwasher with a grudge and a checkbook that's not leadership." I stepped closer. "No leadership is showing up, listening, standing up for people who've been talked over for too long." He rolled his eyes and looked around the room, searching for anyone to back him up, but no one spoke. "I won't be the kind of boss who hides behind a desk," I said. "If you're lifting crates, I'll lift one. If you're cleaning tables, I'll grab a rag. Respect won't be something you have to earn from me. It'll be the starting point." Greg shook his head like he couldn't hear me properly. "You think giving speeches makes you better than us?" "No," I replied. "I think how you treat people when you think no one's watching shows who you really are." His face turned red. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," I said, "but I'd rather make mistakes while doing what's right than stay silent and keep everything wrong." He pushed his chair back so hard it screeched. "This won't last," he muttered under his breath, just loud enough I looked at him. Not angry, just done. "It will, because respect doesn't expire." He stormed out. The silence he left behind felt bigger than the room for a second. No one moved. I could feel their eyes on me, weighing me, wondering if I'd bend under the pressure. I didn't. Luis stepped forward. That was the first time someone in charge said anything like that out loud. I nodded. "Then it's about time we start making normal out of what should have always been the HR rep." A woman who'd barely spoken since the bailout finally spoke. "We've updated the employee handbook. Harassment, discrimination, zero tolerance, effective immediately." There, it was a line in the sand. A younger employee I didn't even know her name yet raised her hand slightly. "What if someone like Greg crosses that line again?" My voice softened. "Then they're out, no warnings. We've warned each other enough through silence." I let that hang, let them feel it, the weight of history, of being overlooked, underestimated, unheard. "I'm not asking you to trust me yet," I said, "but I'm asking you to watch, see how I move, see what I do. That's how you'll know I mean it." Someone clapped, just one person at first, then another and another. It wasn't loud, but power doesn't need to be loud. I stood there, not smiling, just breathing, letting it settle. This wasn't a revolution. It was a return to dignity, to decency, to a workplace where no one had to lower their voice or shrink their light just to make it through the day. And I wasn't going anywhere. Guy stared at the headline on my phone like it was a slap across the face. "Dishwasher turned owner faces staff revolt." A picture of me, arms crossed outside the restaurant, grainy and distorted like I was caught doing something dirty. I felt Lana's hand on my shoulder before she even spoke. "They really ran it, huh?" Her voice was low, cautious. I nodded, jaw clenched. Front page of the gossip site. Greg didn't waste time. Just then, the reporter barged into the lobby without even waiting to be announced. I didn't need to ask who she was. "Jaden Miller?" she said, already recording. "People want to know, how to dishwasher afford a whole restaurant?" I met her eyes. I didn't flinch. Does a black man need to explain wealth? Or just when he earns it honestly? Her smile twitched, but she kept the mic steady. "Is it true that staff are threatening to walk out under your management?" "That's news to me. You talked to any of them? Or just Greg?" Silence. She blinked. "Thought so," I said, stepping closer. "Right. Whatever you need, but make sure you include this part. I didn't buy this place to get even. I bought it to rise." Greg's voice sliced through the air from behind her. "Rise. Please, this whole thing is about revenge." He strolled in like he still owned the place, smug as ever. "You really think anyone believes you care about this dump?" He sneered. "You just wanted to humiliate me." "No, Greg," I said. "Slow and measured revenge is shallow. I'm building something deeper. Dignity, something you gave up a long time ago." He chuckled bitterly. "Big words for a guy who used to mop floors. Bigger actions than the man who tripped me on them." Greg's jaw tightened, but he said nothing else, just turned and left. Brushing past Lana like she was furniture, the reporter lowered her mic. "That's quite a quote." "Yeah," I replied. "Now go print it." Later that night, Lana sat beside me in the back office, scrolling through online comments. Her face kept twisting. "Jaden, you need to see this." I already knew. I took her phone anyway. Typical. pulling the race card to get sympathy, power goes to their heads fast. Huh? He probably slept his way to the top. Good for him, about time someone shook things up. I've eaten their food was fire, don't care who owns it. My stomach turned at some of them. But not all, not anymore. Let them talk, I said, handing it back. Let our actions answer. She leaned her head on my shoulder. It's still gonna hurt. I know. Lise appeared in the doorway. Arms crossed, face unreadable. You sure you're ready for this storm, man? I stood up slowly. Meeting his gaze, I've lived in it my whole life. He stared at me a second longer, then nodded. Then let's weather it together. For a moment, none of us spoke outside. The streetlights glowed against the glass inside. Something stronger lit up in my chest. Not anger, not fear, resolve. Let them throw stones. I've built tougher walls, asterisk. The soft chime of the door startled me. It was past midnight. I was counting the register, the hum of the fridge, the only sound in the room. I didn't expect anyone, but when I looked up there, he was Greg. His hair was messier than I'd ever seen it. Eyes hollow, like something inside had finally given up. You win, he said, stepping in slowly. I lost everything. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I didn't even flinch. You didn't lose it because of me, I said, voice low. You lost yourself way before I showed up. He dropped onto the same stool where he used to bark orders like a king. Now he looked like he was waiting for a sentence. I was scared, he said, staring at his hands. You were better than me, smarter, kinder, and I knew it. So I laughed, I made jokes. I kept you under me because it made me feel safe. I looked at him, not with rage, just clarity. That's what you were doing. I asked, mocking my name, questioning my every move, just fear dressed up as power. He nodded slowly. You were everything I wasn't, and I hated you for it. I leaned against the counter. Arms crossed, the silence stretched heavy like the air before a storm. I have nowhere to go, he said, finally, eyes flicking to me like a dog expecting to be kicked. Nowhere to go. That hit me harder than I expected, because I knew that feeling. I lived it, walking home in the rain after another shift where I'd been talked down to holding my breath every time rent was due. Watching Lana count coins just to buy groceries, I knew what it meant to feel invisible, and now he was here, not on top, not in control, not behind a title or paycheck, just broken. Now you know how I felt, I said, voice cracking without meaning to every shift. Every time you called me boy, every time you told me to mop again, even when it was already clean. I smiled through it. You thought it was submission, but it was survival. Greg swallowed hard. His shoulders hunched like the weight of his past finally broke his spine. Are you gonna ruin me? He whispered. I shook my head. No. He looked up surprised. But I'm not saving you either. He stared at me like he didn't believe it, like he expected me to be better than him or worse. I'm not you, I said. I don't need revenge to heal, but don't expect me to. Forget either. Greg stood up slowly. I never expected any of this. I thought I was untouchable. Yeah, I replied. That was your first mistake. He nodded once, then walked toward the door. No more swagger, no more sarcasm, just silence. And when the door closed behind him, I didn't feel triumph, I didn't feel victory, I just felt the weight of a cycle finally cracking. Maybe not ending, but breaking open enough to breathe. The lights were hot, the camera guy signaled rolling. And the interviewer leaned in, mic ready, her voice was polished, practiced. The kind that cuts through background noise and makes everyone listen. You were mocked for your accent now. You're the owner. How does that feel? I took a breath. I didn't want to sound rehearsed, I wanted to sound real. Like I've been heard. I said, my voice steady, without raising my voice. She smiled, the kind of smile people give when they don't fully understand, but they know they're supposed to nod. They wrapped up quickly after that. Handshakes, gratitude, lights off, just me again, but not for long. That evening I stood in front of a small crowd inside the community center. Fold-out chairs filled with young black and brown faces, wide-eyed kids in the front row. Tired but hopeful parents in the back. This was different. This mattered. I stepped to the mic. It squeaked. They'll try to define you, I said, letting the silence stretch a little. Tell you who you are before you figure it out yourself. The room leaned in. They'll laugh when you speak like your words are broken, but theirs. Hollow, a few heads nodded. One woman wiped her cheek. But truth doesn't whisper forever, it echoes. Applause broke out. Not polite, real. I spotted Luis near the door, clean uniform, crisp collar. Now, a shift manager finally seen for what he was always worth. He approached as people milled around me, some shaking my hand, others just smiling like they didn't have the words yet. Man, Louise grinned, you didn't just buy a restaurant, you bought back your story. I chuckled, exactly, and now I write the next chapter. We bumped fists. No more fear between us, just respect. As the room began to empty, a little boy tugged at his mom's sleeve, pointing at me. That's the guy they laughed at, he whispered. His mom nodded. He's the boss now. I turned away before the lump in my throat betrayed me. I wasn't supposed to cry, not tonight, not after everything, but maybe these were tears that didn't mean pain. Maybe they meant something more. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it walks in quietly and sits at the head of the table. Asterisk, the clatter of dishes, the low murmur of satisfied customers, the scent of buttered cornbread and smoked brisket. It all filled the air like a heartbeat. My restaurant, my rhythm, every sound echoed what we'd built from scratch, not just food. Respect. I leaned on the counter, watching a young man at the dish station struggle. His hands moved fast, but his eyes darted around nervously. He flinched every time someone spoke near him. I walked over quietly. Hey, I said, soft enough not to startle. What's your name? He looked up, lips tight. Emilio, English okay? He hesitated. Little, I try. You're doing more than trying. You're showing up. That counts for something. His eyes dropped. Shame. Fear? I tapped the counter lightly. Come with me for a second. I led him toward the back hallway, not to scold, just to breathe. I want you to hear this. I began, keeping my voice even. You're not less because you speak different. You're more because you survive different. He blinked like he didn't expect kindness in a correction. I smiled. I know what it feels like to twist your tongue just to fit in, but don't twist too much. All right? That's how voices get lost. He nodded slowly. Gracias. Keep showing up. Emilio will understand each other just fine. He walked back toward the sink like his spine had straightened a little. Louise passed by as I turned the corner. Man, did you just give him the don't shrink to fit talk? I grinned. Maybe. Good that kid's got heart? I watched Luis disappear into the kitchen. He ran it now, promoted. Confident, steady. He once said he didn't want a desk. Now he owned the whole line by closing time. The last plate had clinked into the rack. Staff trickled out with tired eyes and quiet laughter. I stayed behind table 5, waited in the far corner. Empty, still lit just enough to cast long shadows on the wood. I walked over and sat down. Same table. Greg once laughed near. Same table. I bust when they mocked my voice. Not knowing I understood every word. Now silence. I placed my plate down. Fried okra, mac and cheese, nothing fancy. The fork scraped softly against the porcelain. No one clapped, no one stared, no headlines, no speeches, just peace. I chewed slowly, letting the quiet wrap around me. Not lonely, just full. My fingers ran along the wood edge of the table. Same walls. I whispered, different soul. I didn't win to prove them wrong. I want to feel this, to breathe in a space I once felt invisible in and feel completely present, healed, not over it, but through it.